for the last. Okay. Till here, what happened is all these psychologists, intellect people, they were finding, they thought intelligence is one factor, one global factor. And I mean, there is only one, there are few factors inside the brain which influence intelligence. It started with Spearman, then Thorndike, then Thomson, Turnstone, all these people. Then it came to one factor, to two factor, to three factor, multiple factor. But all thought intelligence is one final product of one major factor. So that's how it was till now. My screen. Yes. But Guilford, J.P. Guilford, he totally disagreed with them. He said intelligence is a combination of multiple abilities which are relatively independent of each other. So he came up with a three-dimensional model. He said the combination of these three sets and subsets of these form intelligence. So intelligence has multiple factors that influence intelligence. So that's how he never agreed with the multiple factor theory of Thornstone or the G factor of Spearman. He was always the critique for them. Finally, he developed his own model, the structure of intellect. So he gave a structure and explained these are the dimensions which influence the intelligence, and a combination of these can be used at different situations depending on the task. So there is this brief small biography or biodata given of J.P. Guilford. I'll just read it out to you. So J.P. Guilford was born on March 7th, 1897, Marquette, Nebraska. His interest in individual differences started from his childhood. Then he graduated from University of Nebraska. Then he was assistant in psychology department. Then at Cornell University, he studied under Edward Titchener and conducted intelligence testing on children. So this was the turning point in his life. He was studying in Cornell University under Edward Titchener. From there, his interest for intelligence testing on children, all these started. So as you know, then he moved to Kansas University, came back to Nebraska, went to Southern California. So he has jumped and roamed a number of universities, and he finally died on November 26, 1987. So this 1967 is where he developed his theory. So this is one important information. And he rejected the multiple factor theory of Thornstone and the single factor theory of Spearman. So this is the background. So according to J.P. Guilford, intelligence depends upon how a person uniquely processes information. So each person processes information, understand, perceive it, use different techniques to retain it as a memory in different ways. Each has their own way of doing it. So he said intelligence is individualistic. It is not a common factor. It is unique for everyone. So then, yeah, this is an example for people who are good at breaking down mathematical problems into units. So people like all these mathematicians, teachers, math teachers, they have their own combination of factors of intelligence that they use. While others, for example, traffic police or you see the army people, they converse and recognize symbols, signs. So they have their own set of intelligence. This 25 different factors is what I've mentioned. This is not exactly right, please forgive me. But he broke down intelligence into three mental abilities. He still agreed that intelligence is got to do with more of brain and mental abilities. And they were still stuck to the head brain cognition, such aspects itself. So Guilford also stuck to those mental abilities, and he divided them into operations, contents, and products. So these are three important dimensions. These are the main three, like main sets. There are three main sets: operations, contents, and products. So what are operations? In generally, there are process. So for example, some C-section operation is a process that we do. So it involves a certain process. In here, when we take intelligence, it's intellectual process that's required by a test. And contents are areas on which operations are applied. So for example, there are subsets which is visual, auditory, semantic, etc., etc., etc. So these are the cues that you get from learning, and you apply it on the process. You use these to and apply it on the process of operation or task that you're doing. Then comes the product. Product is actually the results, the end result of using contents on the operations. So the connection between these three are: the product is a final result which uses contents to apply in operations. Am I clear? Is there any doubt in this? Hello?
No, all good.
Okay, okay. Okay, so these are the main three things: operations, contents, and products. So going to operations, there are 5 subsets of operations. Then later it became 6, but initially it's just 5. So it is cognition. Cognition is the ability to understand, comprehend, discover, and become aware. Becoming aware of your surrounding, understanding what is math, or understanding or comprehending a paragraph. This is cognition. So the ability to understand something is cognition. Memory initially was one subset of operation. Later, Guilford divided memory into memory recording and memory retention. So in previous series, we were discussing different, I think Tarun or someone took it, different parts of memory, how a memory is formed from short term to long term, what are the techniques we use, etc. Keeping that in mind, first it was only memory, then he divided it into memory recording and memory retention. So what is memory recording is how you encode information. The ability to just store, the ability to just grasp the stimuli is memory recording. Memory retention is the techniques or the ability to recall information, the techniques that you use, like by hearting information, repeating something. For example, in childhood, we were repeating alphabets, so that it retained. So repetition and using abbreviations. For example, this Guilford's structure of intellect model is called as SOI model. So remembering those small letters as chunks, abbreviating, these are the memory techniques, the operation. So this is a process that happens in our mind. So memory is the second subset of operations. Divergent production and convergent productions are opposite. Divergent productions are the ones who use this technique, this operation, are usually creative people, like artists, or drivers. Drivers, if you want to reach a place, they know the multiple routes. This is in traffic, this is without traffic. You can reach via inside forest, or you can go through highway. So drivers, for example. So this divergent production of operation consists of giving out multiple solutions for a single problem. Whereas convergent production is totally logical and has only one solution. For example, math problems. Math problems, whatever you do, whichever way you follow, you have only one solution. So, and for divergent production, doctors are also a best example. Okay, you give a tablet, that doesn't work. You give another tablet, it doesn't work. Then you increase the course. So you're trying to generate multiple solutions for the same problem. Convergent production, examples are teachers, then mathematicians, I don't know what else to say. You can think on. So it's just dropping down or narrowing it down everything one to one solution. Then evaluation is to judge something. So you evaluate the complete, uh, you know, whether the traffic police was giving the right signals to move the vehicles from one side in spite of being their red light. In spite of the red light, the traffic light, the traffic police was giving way for the other vehicles in the opposite lane because maybe some minister was arriving or there was an accident, something like that. So, as a third person, how are you evaluating it? Are you judging the traffic police as he's going against the traffic light rules, or are you judging him as a kind person because there was an accident and he doesn't want any more accident to happen? So your ability to judge something, that process is evaluation. So these are the six operations. Are we clear? Shall I move forward?
Yep.
What is the sixth one? The 5 operations, right?
Yeah, memory was divided into memory recording and memory retention later. That became 6.
Got it.
Yeah. Coming to content. So here also there were initially 4 contents initially, but later it became 5, 6. Okay. It depends on how you take. Actually, it became 6 in later. So initially it was 4, then it became 5, then it became 6. I'll tell you how. In figural, initially figural was only 1. Figural is something concrete, real world information, tangible objects, things. So the subset of figural content is you have visual figure, auditory figure, kinesthetic figure. Initially all these were just one figure. Then Guilford, after I think 2-3 years, he made it into visual and auditory alone. Then it was 5. Then he added kinesthetic also. Though that's how it became 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 contents in total. So visual information is anything concrete, real world information that you are able to see, a result of your sight sense. So you colors, textures, size, shape. These are all the visual inputs or stimuli that form a content in your memory. Then you have auditory input or auditory figure, which are the sounds and voices. Anything that has to do with sounds. Sounds, you store contents of different sounds of different animals, voices of different people, your dear ones, friends, parents, and all these nature sounds. So these are the auditory inputs or stimuli that form the auditory content, the figure. Then you have kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is your bodily movements. Like, if you move your right hand like this, or if you stretch your right hand, you can reach out to something and get maybe grab a fruit or something. If you bend back, there's a blood rush which goes to your brain. Same if you turn front, there's blood rush to your brain again. So if you twist your body, you have a stretch on your lateral side. So these are your bodily awareness, the movements of your own body, limbs, body parts. That is kinesthetic content. Then you have symbolic information. Symbol as signs, symbols. You recognize that addition is indicated by the sign symbol plus. Multiplication, word mass, multiplication, division, subtraction, brackets, traffic signals, traffic signboards, then this danger, red cross, all these are symbols that give a meaning. Just by looking at a red skull, a skull with a red cross on it, it's danger. So those are symbols which convey a meaning, each symbol convey a single meaning. Then you have semantic, where there are meanings for every word. So language is involved here. Language and culture is involved here. So for every word that you listen or see, you have a meaning, and it's like synonyms, like finding synonyms. Maybe a relatable example for this, or how do you tell? Just spelling a word content. You know, it is CONTENTS. Anything which involves letters, words is semantic. Authors, poets have a lot of semantic. They definitely have the semantic content as part of the intelligence. That's that. And teachers also, definitely they have to have, if they don't know the meaning of any word or sentence that they use, then their teaching is pointless. So next you have the behavioral content. Here, these behaviors are actions of an individual that you observe. So behavior comes mostly from observing others. It is also learned, but mostly by observing and imitating others. So here you have expressions of your body, body language, posture, how you walk, the pace of your walking, your some tell lifting your chin up and talking is confidence. So you're observing others' behavior, like how Sherlock Holmes in Sherlock Holmes series, how he tells this person is confident, this person is introvert, extrovert. So just by observing, you get to know the personality or character of other people around you. This implies of your knowledge towards others. Very rarely you can imply this behavioral knowledge to yourself. If you're highly self-aware, then you can definitely. So these are operations. So it was 4, then became 5, then became 6. Am I good to go forward? Understood? Prahash or Ritika?
I'm good.
Okay.
It's all easy. We already read it. Like we studied it in Unit 1 also. It's all about how we get content. And this is how we get content, either by seeing, by touching, or by hearing. And then we categorize it into more symbolic, with a meaning, and by seeing others doing the same thing. So make a lot of sense. I'm good.
One interesting thought here is the smell and
That
what
come into kinesthetic.
Yes,
Kinesthetic is
true.
all about the 5 senses.
those are physical.
Also,
I am talking about Panjendriyas. Out of Panjendriya, 3 of them are here. Skin is there, ear and eyes are there. But smell or taste, those 2 are probably somehow not. I don't know where to place it.
Touch,
I mean,
smell, all this will come into kinesthetic. Kinesthetic.
Okay.
also, I think they perceived ENT as together. So that's how they have given only auditory.
Okay.
I mean, just
That's the question, actually.
yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to the third dimension, that is products. So product is all about the end result, your evaluation, not evaluation, giving us final, full on final solution is product. So in that you have 6 subsets. So
Sandhya, can I say something about Unix, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on.
When Guilford was doing the research, what he has done, instead of he's talking mota, he said he converted everything into units. So he says that our brain has boxes and every box has different units, and that's where we save information. That's why here unit has been used. So anywhere you see units, that means he is referring to a box in a memory, and every small information like what do you call it? Oh, like one orange
Chunks.
number. These are Unix, and these Unix becomes the information. I don't know what's the word for that. Multiple Unix equivalent to something. I forgot. Okay, so this is what Unix he talks about. Single item.
Yes, correct. These are isolated bits of single item.
Yeah.
They don't have any relation. There's a just, for example, there is a word dog, and there's a word multiplication, and there's a word bakery. So these are unrelated single units of information. One word, one single item of information. Then you have classes. Classes are something which share a common attribution. A class of students. Students share the common, quality of learning. So class of students, or it's more related to a production of concept. So how do you tell? Maybe vehicles. It's a class of vehicles. So you have, when you see vehicles, all share a common attribute that vehicles are used to move from one place to the other. So classes are something related to each other. Classes and relations go hand in hand. Then relation is relation between two classes or two things. For example, date and day are related. So you might ask, what is 3rd Feb? Which day on which day does 3rd Feb fall? So there's a relation between the date and day. Then you ask for relations, how is this person related to you? So how is that student related to this student? So classes and relations kind of go hand in hand, but yeah, relations are connections. Classes are something which share common attributes. In classes, they're not exactly exist relation, but for relation, classes do exist. However you want to understand, but both are for broader understanding, they can be taken synonymously. Then you have system. System is, it has a set of process or set of things that, whose dog is that? Okay, thank you. Then, for example, government is a system, and it influences each elements. It influences other elements, each other elements, and it has a set of guidelines or a fixed set procedure that follows a system. So 3 or more items forming a whole, such as a full song or melody. So a song or a poem is a system because they have some parametric similes, metaphors. So they already have a preset. You have to follow that. So that's a system. That's the end result. System is the end result of set guidelines or rules. Then you have transformation. Here, one product changes into something else. Change in an item of information such as correlation of spellings, sentences, modifications, etc. Transforming previously thought of idea into a new idea. A best example is cooking. So you have multiple contents and the operation that you use there is both kinesthetic and behavioral, and you can actually use symbolic. It depends on how you think, how you perceive. So you use all those contents, perform a certain operation, and you create an end product. The end product is a dish. So these contents have transformed into a dish. So transformation is that. So the final dish is the transformation product, and you have used different contents like spices, and you've used the operation of behavior or kinesthetic to create a transformation product. Implication is to understand inner meaning, to draw conclusion out of something, or predict or anticipate the consequences, understand something beyond. So analyzing all these implication has to do with higher order thinking. So those are the 6 products. Example could be in Hindi. I'm just giving example. For example, a poet quotes, the moon moved away to give way to sun, and that hurt my feelings. So this is maybe a line which in which inner meaning is, moon is a boyfriend which gives you cool Moon is considered as a cooling agent. Then it moves away. I mean, it gives way to the light. Sun is more of a heating agent. So you are burnt. You are actually suffering from, I mean, from the loneliness or the separation feeling because your boyfriend moved away. So moon gave away to sun, which gave me hurt feelings. So that is the inner meaning. On a superficial level, it's just like night ended, day started. So understanding these inner meaning, analyzing it, is implications. So these are the products, 6 products. So what happened? Initially, it was there were 4 dimensions, 4 contents, 5 operations, and 6 products initially, which came up to 120 factors of intellect. All these 3 dimensions came up to 120 factors. Then in contents, he added 5, which came up to 150 factors. Then in contents, he increased it to 6. So it became to 180 factors. So the total is 180 factors. Initially, it was 120, 150, then 180. All these, Guilford himself increased the number of sub-factors of each of the dimensions. So each combination of an operation, example memory, content, which is memory is part of the operation, content is symbolic, and the product is units, represent different factor of intellect. The example given in the book for understanding how you analyze intelligence according to Guilford structure of intellect is, suppose a subject is given a long list of unrelated words to study and is asked to recall them later. This is the task. You're given unrelated words and you are asked to remember that later. So which factors of intelligence come together here is the content of the scale is semantic because you're given a list of words. Words has to do with language, semantic. That's the content. Since it involves words, the operation is memory. I mean, the operation is memory because you're using memory recognition and memory retention technique to just remember all those unrelated words. Then the product is the recall of words as units because those are unrelated single item of words. So this is our units, semantic, and memory. So these are the 3 factors which form a which define intelligence of a person according to Guilford to that particular task alone. So each task gives you a set or a combination of these 3 dimensions for a person. So you cannot assess a person with one intelligence and generalize it for all tasks. He said for each task, the person picks or uses these factors of intelligence available at his exposure. I mean, yeah. So, yes, but Guilford populates divergent production, creation of numerous operations. I mean, you can go through this. It's just, what's the end of textbook. So I'm not going by the slides, right? I'm just giving examples and explaining in my own words. So this is how you can actually visualize it. It's a cube, 3-dimensional cube. So any one of the combination of right, left, and up will give you intelligence. It will define the intelligence for one particular task. So let's analyze one example. A clinical psychologist has to treat a patient with hydrophobia. What operations, contents, and products will be involved in this intellectual process? Anyone who wants to guess?
Yeah, hydrophobia is you feel a little bad about water. So looking at water, so content will be definitely visual. Then also if you feel water, then that'll be the third one, whatever that kind of thing is.
Operation. Okay.
Memory definitely that when you see water, your memory of water is involved. Then when you touch water, again, the cold,
Product?
cool of water product will be your conclusion that this is a scary thing.
You mean implication?
Implication, yeah, this is danger.
Okay. But remember, the task is for the psychologist and not the person with hydrophobia. All your answers are wrong, Praharsh.
Okay, nice. Okay.
This is the answer.
The content should be auditory
Behavioral.
or
Behavioral. Because once, I mean, the answer, I found this example somewhere. It depends on how you perceive. Maybe the sound of water has given you fear, or the touch of water has given you fear, or an incident or a situation where you behaved in some way inside a water pool or something, which gives you a behavioral aspect, has given you fear. So it actually depends on what thing of water has initiated fear in you.
But it could be semantic also, right? Because a person, how will psychologists know that the person has this problem? So he will say, I have a problem with water. I'm scared of water, or I have a water phobia. And then psychologists will check how much phobia he has. So that could come under behavioral.
Yeah, so it completely depends on how you perform. That's what it is, individual. For you, the combination of factors are different. For me, it's different. For the psychologist, it's different. So one common thing could be, one of the possibilities according to that psychologist could be this. So he would be asked to use the behavioral content and transformation. Final product will be transformation. So transformation is because he is treating from a hydrophobic patient into non-hydrophobic patient. Okay. So that is his aim. Maybe that's why they have given transformation. So this is the answer. And next, there's one more. You're required to watch the news and give your own input on what do you think about the current hot topic or debate. Which operations, contents, and products will be involved in this intellectual process? Any hot news, any breaking news.
Cognition and maybe divergent. Evaluation, 3.
Evaluation and divergent are part of operations alone. So you have to still give me the product.
Product.
So product, there are unit
implications, or maybe system or relation. I said almost. I think it should be implication, because watching the current topic, we are trying to predict, or we are trying to take out inferences, something like that. I don't know.
Let's see. Could be. Your answer is still right.
Soundarya, one
politics or sports.
Yeah, Praharsh, yes, still.
No, Umashankar here. Soundarya, one request.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, can you go back to the cubic slide, just that cubes? Yeah. Yeah, thanks. You can thank you.
Okay, welcome. So one of the answers is operation is evaluation. You're actually thinking from your perspective, how you perceive that piece of information. So content is auditory and visual because it's in the news channel. Mm-hmm. It's both audio visual. Product is implication, like Kritika said. The implication of this theory is all the people who supported Spearman hated Guilford. So Guilford strongly rejected both Spearman and Thornstone. He said there are not just 7 primary factors of intelligence, but there are multiple unique factors of intelligence. So 7, Thornstone said there are just 7 elements, and Guilford gave almost 180 elements. So that's a huge difference. So he denied both their theories. Then it provides a static taxonomy and supports very limited possibilities for understanding developmental issues. So though it provides 180 factors, it totally depends on how each person perceives information. For example, just now I had a different approach, Kritika had a different approach, Praharsh had a different approach. So you can, it's very hard to understand how you perceive things. So there are differences in each of us. And because his, 180 models just limited to just 180, it was hard to understand the issues of development of brain. And for analytical support for the theory is found to be lacking in several notable respects. I think when it comes to testing, getting this model into test, maybe there were some problems, I assume. So yes, that's end of it. Now I have any doubts?
You did not mention about Eysenck. What Eysenck said on the evaluation part of this?
Yeah, so Eysenck actually said Guilford concentrated most of his studies on populations with a restricted range of intelligence, thus reducing the scope of G. That is, and when he was doing tests on children, so most of these tests were done among children because the French government gave the money or funds to do it on children. So the range of population that they were tested was very less. Thus, the scope of G, because Eysenck was a follower Spearman, I believe. So he said the scope of G is reduced. Did I answer your question, Ritika? I've just
but still there's more. Okay. So what happened is Eysenck, yeah, like you said, he always believed in Spearman's G factor. So here what he said that he whatever studies were done, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Studies were done, they were mostly used orthogonal methods of intelligence. And that's why they ignored the correlation between simple structure factors. He also criticized that the Guilford factors was so narrow and specialized that they have little value in prediction. So again, when we talk about our our product dimension, so it has very little value in prediction. Also, in spite of the criticism, it is important to note that whatever Eysenck was saying, but again, Guilford left a significant mark into research into intelligence, and many tests are still used in modern intelligence testing, were modified and developed under Guilford's guidance. So in spite of having criticism, Guilford still have his amazing mark on research of intelligence. So it's important that we should know whoever is criticizing when someone is doing a research. So we need to remember Eysenck uncle. He is...
Yeah, he's been a common critic across many theories.
He's like critic uncle. We should remember him as a critic uncle.
He's like Praharsh.
Praharsh is like Thorndike's. Uska naam change ho gaya hai.
Okay. Now, wait. I have something for you. Do you have access to your another browsing? I mean, can you browse Kahoo.it on your thing? Like maybe your laptop?